Hello and welcome to a truly unique global climbing competition. We're off to 7 countries today with climbers of 8 nationalities taking part. We'll be going to Russia, home of Julia Kaplina. We'll be going to Poland, home of the current women's world champion. We're off to the Kletterzentrum in Innsbruck as well. And we'll be off to France, where that man Bassa Marwem resides. Also in Italy, home of the current men's world champion Ludovico Fasali. We'll see him climbing later on. So the way this format will work is that climbers from all over the world, from the countries listed, all took part in a virtual speed climbing competition. They did a full speed climbing competition, so they did 2 qualifying runs. They then did their round of 16 run, the round of 8, semi-final, small final, and so on. And they don't know who's won. We simply compare the times, edit them together, and figure out who's won after the event. So the climbers, as I say, are not necessarily racing the person alongside them. They don't know who's won, and unusually we'll need to ignore the colour of the clock at the top of the wall, because obviously this is a virtual competition. Climbers aren't racing the person next to them, so the fact that your clock goes green doesn't necessarily mean you've won. Regardless of the person next to you, this of course is the qualifying round. So it's simply a matter of time. You're not racing anybody, even in a normal quote-unquote speed climbing World Cup. And the only French female taking part today, Capucine Viglione, on her first run. As ever in qualifiers, climbers get a run in the A lane. They also get a run in the B lane. So that was her A lane run. She'll now run in the B lane. And as in a normal speed climbing World Cup, it's the fastest of the 2 times that counts. When we've seen all the women run from across the world, we'll then figure out which 16 were quickest, and they will go into a virtual speed climbing final. So big slip, from Capucine. And this almost certainly will be slower than the first run, and yes, it is. 11.2. Pretty hard after a slip on basically the first move to improve on the time, but clean enough in the upper section. So as I say, we'll see women climbing from all across the world, and then we'll see the men climbing as well. And the 16 fastest women and the 16 fastest men will progress to our virtual speed final. And you can see there her best time of 9.048. Time will tell where that leaves her. Off next, we are in Arco in Italy. That wall will look familiar to regular IFSC viewers. The famous overhangs of Arco with the speed wall in the middle. And as you can see, coronavirus being taken into account, to say the least. The fact that we're doing this remotely tells you everything. But also you can see the belays wearing masks. All the officials wearing masks. And up first we've got Giulia Randi and Francesca Varzi. Just to repeat, the climbers are not racing against each other. This is qualifying. So it's simply a case of getting the fastest time you can and hoping that you are amongst the fastest 16 women. Both away cleanly. Randy the quicker of the 2, but as I say, it's time that's crucial. Francesca Varzi, big slip for her. That will cost her 8.911 from Giulia Randi. Slightly quicker than Capucine Viglione, but of course very early days still in the competition. And that was the slip from Francesca Varzi. It's the right foot. And out next, we'll have Anna Kalanka and Erika Piscopo on the right. There's the timing pad. Just like a normal speed climbing World Cup, your time is the time it takes from your foot to go from the timing pad till your hand hits the timing pad at the top of the wall. So we've seen the timing pad at the bottom, and there is the timing pad at the top. And again, a fastest time of the day so far from Anna Kalanka with an 8.727. So as I say, all these climbers did 2 qualifying speed runs, one in the A lane, one in the B lane, and then they did a run for the round of 16. And obviously they didn't know who their opponent was, they didn't know if they'd won that one, and then they progressed, or didn't, into the round of 8, and again, their run was edited so that they were on screen running next to someone, but at the time they obviously didn't know who they were running against, they didn't know whether they'd won. And it all means that people don't even know if they've made it into the final. They don't know how they did in the final, and they don't know how they did overall. They don't even know if they've won the competition until we edited all this together and figured it out. So Elisa Lega makes her first appearance on the left, and Julia Randy clocking a good time of 8.664 on the right. Julia Randy on her second run there. She was in the A lane earlier, moves over to the B lane this time. And a nice clean run. So Anna Kalanka, who we just saw briefly there, will be in the B lane this time. We've already seen her running in the A lane, and Francesca Varzi goes into A, having been in B. Of course, the routes are identical, or as close as they can be to being identical. Everything measured and examined, but just in case, everybody gets a run in both lanes so that there could be no question of over fairness. So both climbers running in the A and the B lanes, although the routes are absolutely identical. 8.5 there in the right-hand lane from Anna Kalanka. And one more run. Have to keep remembering that it's not a race, it is a run. We're only going against the clock. And Erica Piscopo and Elisa Lega in lanes A and B respectively on their second runs of the day. After this, we're heading to Innsbruck, the Kletterzentrum for Austria. I've also got a German climbing taking part. We'll talk more about that in just a second. For now, though, Erica Piscopo on the left and Elisa Lega on the right. Both ran earlier, so simply looking to improve their time. A little stumble mid-route, about a third of the way up, excuse me, from Elisa Lega, and she goes just over 9 seconds. 8.9 flat for Erica Piscopo. So that is us done for the women's qualifying in ARCA. We'll be back later on to see the men's qualifying. You could see some of the men waiting to come out there. Obviously, you can see just quickly the times. Anna Kalanka, that 8.582, which I mentioned earlier, is the quickest time of the day. All the climbers apart from Elisa Lega dipping under 9 seconds. It's a strong performance in Italy. And now we head over to the Kletterzentrum in Innsbruck. And just 2 women taking part, 1 Austrian, 1 German. I mentioned right at the top of the broadcast that there were going to be 8 nationalities taking part across 7 countries, and there you have it. Alexandra Elmer of Austria on the left and Franziska Ritter of Germany on the right. Again, climbers will get a run in the A lane, a run in the B lane. They're pretty evenly matched, these two. It looked like Ritter might be slightly quicker, and she is, but only by about 0.05 of a second. You can see the background there. People using the lead walls as this competition takes place. So after a rest, remember this is all edited. This isn't live. They haven't scurried across to the B lane. They do get a rest. The climbers swap lanes and they'll get their second run. Both just over 8.5 seconds on the first run. And both clean again on the second run as well. Francesca Ritter was 0.05 of a second quicker last time. She won't be quicker this time, and Alexandra Elmer improves her time ever so slightly. Ritter a little slower than the previous occasion. Remember, when all these qualifiers are done, we're going to take the 16 quickest women and the 16 quickest men, regardless of nationality, and they'll progress into a virtual final. But all the climbers in all the countries all did enough runs as if they made it all the way to the end part of the competition. So nobody just did these 2 runs. Everybody did all their runs. They then did a round of 16, a round of 8, a semi-final, and a final run as well. So whether they made it through or not, everybody got plenty of practice on the speed climbing course. So over to Poland now, home of the current women's world champion, who I mentioned earlier, Alexandra Miroslav. She is, of course, a qualified Olympian as well. And it's the Kaluchkas out first. Natalia on the left and Alexandra on the right. And it was a better start from Alexandra and holding on to a lead. But it is closing. Remember, again, I have to remember, as well as you guys at home, that it's not a race. You are not racing the person next to you. You are only racing the clock. And it was Alexandra on the right, as I say, who clocked the better time. Good looking climbing facility over in Poland. So, second run in Poland. We'll be back later for the men as well, but Olympia Markish on the left and Alena Snyder. I'm sorry that I was not able to confirm the pronunciation, and that may not be correct. My apologies, Alena. A little more sluggish, these two knot climbers we see quite as regularly as the Kaluchkas, and you can see probably not going to be matching the Kaluchka times, but it is Markish who goes slightly quicker, both climbers in the 12 seconds, 12.1 on the left for Markish. Remember, just like in a normal speed climbing World Cup, you can false start. So you're not allowed to leave the timing pad within 0.1 seconds of the final beep. There are 3 beeps to signify when you should start, and you're not allowed to leave the timing pad within 0.1 seconds. Daria Marcianak now on the left. Talia Kaluchka taking her second run, having been in the A lane earlier. She moves over to the B lane and scurries up on a pretty clean run and a good time of 8.118, just over 10 seconds for Marcianak. So her sister now gets her second run over on the left. We can't actually hear it, but it will be run like a normal speed climbing competition. The climbers will be told to get on their marks, and then there'll be the 3 beeps to go. Alexandra Kaluchka now underway. Olympia Markish not able to keep pace. And Kaluchka dips under 8 seconds. Quick run from her, 7.888. Just over 12 for Markish. Kaluchka rather disappeared out of shot there. Quick time from her, both the Kaluchkas looking in good form. You can see all the officials down the front there. It takes a lot of people to watch a speed climbing competition, clearly. And again, coronavirus being taken into account. I don't know if we should describe them as belays, the attachers to the perfect descent belay system wearing masks. So final run in Poland. And then we are off to Russia, where we should have been, of course, for the European Championships earlier on this year, sadly cancelled for obvious reasons, and Marcianak goes under 11 seconds. One more look. Not too much wrong with that, just a little stumble before the top, just a loss of momentum. And you can see there, the Kaluchka sisters more than 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Alexandra Miroslav, the speed climbing world champion from 2019, not taking part. Now we move over to Russia. A lot of familiar names on that list. In fact, if you're a regular IFSC viewer, you will likely know all of those names. And yes, Russia next. As I say, would love to have been there earlier on this year, but alas, it was not to be. We are still hoping to get there in November for the rescheduled European Championships. Mask might not have been a bad idea from the guys attaching them to the perfect descent belay system. But alas, let's get on with the climbing. Daria Khan now on the left, Elizaveta Ivanova over on the right. Again, these names will be familiar to regular viewers. Daria Khan, been a star of a few Youth World Championships down the years, and Elizaveta Ivanova regularly at the business end of World Cups and clocking a decent time. She can definitely go quicker than that though, 8.422. Katerina Barashuk will be out next against Yulia Koplina. There is Yulia Koplina on the right, former world record holder, World Cup season champion in years past, a legend of the speed climbing game. Some competition on her hands these days with the emergence of the Indonesian and Chinese climbers, Eri Susanti Rahayu and Yiling Song and so on. But Yulia Koplina is still absolutely capable of winning at the very top level. Just a little loss of momentum, a couple of moves before the top there means Koplina clocks a 7.891. And Barashuk also dipping under 8 seconds as well, 7.979. That was a replay actually of Ivanova earlier on. Speaking of whom, she is out, and so is Anna Tsiganova. Good to see her back at this level of competition. World Championship medalist, of course. Really nice to see her back on the wall. Tsiganova, another climber capable of mixing it at the very highest level on her day. Not quite there right now, form not quite there, but still dips. Almost got us under 9.5 seconds, but comfortably under 10, and even over 7.979, which is about half a second quicker than her first run over in the B lane. So Yulia Koplina now comes out again, with Daria Khan alongside her. Koplina needs to improve on 7.891, and Khan needs to improve on a 9.25. Both away cleanly. Koplina not looking quite her usual self, but quicker in the upper section, and a cleaner finish than last time means that she does beat her time from earlier on. She's yeah, about 0.2 of a second quicker than last time. And Daria Khan about 0.1 of a second quicker, so a slight improvement. 9.12 seconds there for Daria Khan. So closest to the camera this time in the left, the A lane. Anna Tsiganova over on the right is Katerina Barashuk. Tsiganova looking to improve on 9.5, and Barashuk looking to improve on 7.979. And big slip from Tsiganova means she will not improve. Barashuk improves by the smallest of margins, about 100th of a second. It might make the difference. Maybe an improvement is an improvement, but it's a fairly meagre one. But comfortably under 8 seconds once again. So 2 runs under 8 seconds. Nice consistent stuff from her. Tsiganova sadly unable to improve on her 9.5. So she will have to wait and see whether that is enough. Now we move over to Indonesia, home of some of the strongest up-and-coming sport and speed climbers in the world. 5 Indonesian women taking part today and 5 Indonesian men. Obviously, we're still on the women's qualification. And up first, it will be Muji Mulyani on the left. You can see they're pulling into the A lane, and Alivani Ver Khadija on the right. Eri Susanti Rahayu, the current women's world record holder, not taking part today. So 5 Indonesian women taking part, but Eri Susanti Rahayu not being one of them. as ever, look like they're having fun. The Indonesian team, one of the most fun teams to be around on the IFSC tour. Generally, every climber, every coach, everyone involved wearing a smile on their face pretty much all day, every day. Mulyani gets a better start, but yeah, I don't think these will be amongst the quickest times we've seen today, but it may be enough for replacing the top 16, and Mulyani dips just under 10 seconds. Khadija just over 10 seconds. 10.2, so not much in it between the two climbers. As I say, we've seen climbers go much quicker than that today, but we're looking for 16 women to progress, and there's 25 participating, so you need to be quicker than 9 other people to get through. Rajia Salsabila now on the left, a name that will be familiar again to regular IFSC World Cup viewers, and then Desak Mita Rita, perhaps less familiar. And you can see Salsabila, plenty of pace in the middle section, but actually missed the timing pad at the top. You have to apply a specific amount of pressure at a specific point. And if you do not manage to achieve that, you do not stop the timer. And you can see she slapped where she thought she needed to slap, but clearly missed it.
And you're off.
So Alivani Ver Khadija now gets her second run. She moves over to the left, and Nurul Ikomar, excuse me, gets her first outing in the B lane. And it's a quick time as well, 8.272. We've seen climbers going quicker today, but that's a pretty good start from Ikomar. Looks like she's still got a bit of pace to spare, but that's a decent time in the bag. So Desak Mita Rita now will run again. I was about to say against, excuse me, with Muji Mulyani alongside her on the right.
Ready?
And just, yeah, dips under 10, Mita Rita just over. One more run in Indonesia will be Nurul Ikomar, who we saw earlier, against Rajia Salsabila, who we also saw earlier on.
And you're off.
After Indonesia, we just have one more country to visit. We're off to Japan next. As I say, this is our last run for the women's qualifiers in Indonesia, and then it's Japan up next. Good time from Salsabila, just over a smidgen over 8 seconds, 300ths of a second. And 9.420 as well over on the left for Nurul Ikomar, and that's how they end up. You can see Rajia Salsabila, who did not manage to stop the timer on her first run, more than makes amends on the second run, 8 seconds. Should be enough to see her through. And just 2 women taking part over in Japan. A few more over on the men's side. It's Rin Ninomiya and then Kanami Suzuki. So Ninomiya is over on the left and Suzuki on the right. Again, you could be forgiven for not knowing those names. Not regulars by any means on the IFSC tour, but it'd be interesting to see. Always interesting to see new climbers, and often you can be surprised by these climbers that you might know not much about. And yeah, as you can see, clearly still learning the speed climbing route. Not disastrous times by any means, but probably unlikely to be enough to see them into the top 16. But I always enjoy watching, new climbers, newcomers to the scene. Our first chance to see someone who may be a superstar of the future. Japan do seem able to churn out superstars at a quite extraordinary rate. So the climbers now, of course, after a break, just to repeat, this is not live. They will have had a break. I suspect one or two of the men's qualifiers took place. We can see some of the male climbers waiting over to the side. I suspect some of the men's qualifiers have taken part since these two climbers ran. And they now get a second run. This time it's Kanami Suzuki on the left and Rin Ninomiya on the right. And Suzuki really struggling with the middle section. Small climbers, so you can see he's having to jump so far between the holds. And a bit of a slower run this time, 13.020. Ninomiya steps up, improves her time by about 0.6 of a second, 11.359. So there you have it. Ninomiya going under 11.5. And this is how it finishes. That is the end of the women's qualifiers. So remember, 16 climbers through, all done on time. So everyone down to Anna Tsiganova progresses. Elisa Lega with 9.748, the first of the climbers to miss out. So that's how they'll line up in the final. Climbers are seeded just as they are in a Speed Climbing World Cup or World Championship. So in the first race, you get the highest ranked climber from the qualifiers, which is Yulia Koplina, against the lowest ranked, which is Anna Tsiganova. But more on that later. For now, we're on to the men's already, and Hajime Takeda now will be on the left with Yuta Imazumi on the right. I don't recognise this venue in Japan, I'm afraid. I don't know exactly where it is. We've been to quite a few venues in Japan over the years with the IFSC. Can't imagine that at this time of year conditions for speed climbing, in fact for being outside in general, are ideal in Japan. And Takeda looked like he was going really well there, but a big slip in the middle section cost him. Imazumi again, couple of slips cost him, can definitely go quicker than that, but 8.4, not a bad return for him. Takeda can certainly improve on his 10.374. But as I was saying, conditions unlikely to be ideal in Japan at this time of year. It's very hot, very humid in the height of summer. Of course, a great deal more IFSC athletes would have hoped and expected to be in Japan right now, ahead of climbing's Olympic debut, but as we all know, and for obvious reasons, that has been postponed. So sadly, we are having to watch only Japanese climbers in Japan, not the entire climbing universe descending on the country. But still, great to have some climbing back on the screen, regardless of the circumstances. And Ryue Nakui, who again, you may well know if you watch our World Cup coverage regularly, clocks a 7.782 seconds. Imazumi does not improve on his time. He's about 0.2 of a second slower than his first run. Ryue Nakui now, and Hajime Takeda. Takeda with work to do from earlier on. Big slip cost him. He was 10.374 earlier on. Nakui 7.782 last time. And it looks like both will improve. Yes, Nakui improves, but only just about 0.2 of a second. Hajime Takeda improves a lot more comfortably. Takes about 3 seconds off his previous time, which, as I say, was slower than we might have expected due to a big slip, and all the climbers going well there. Everyone under 8.5 seconds, 2 of them under 8 seconds. So off now again to Indonesia. 5 climbers taking part, and a few of those names will have a very familiar ring if you are a regular IFSC viewer. That man there, Aspar Jayalolu, World Cup winner and one of the real characters of the climbing world. It's one of the few occasions I've ever seen him not smiling. No doubt he will be shortly. He is on the left, Arya Arsendi on the right. And clean run from both so far. Jalolu, the quicker of the two, 6.590. Gives you some idea. That's still over a second, the thick end of a second slower than the men's world record. And Aspar Jalolu can mix it at the top level of World Cups, as I say. So I would certainly expect him to be able to go a little bit quicker next time round. Wasn't the cleanest run. Zainal Arifin now on the left. You could just see him there with the bleach blonde hair. And Alfian Mohammed, again, another climber whose name I say a lot during the IFSC World Cup season. Good to see him back on our screens. Nice and clean through the middle section. You can see the hips. I was about to say the hips just nicely driving directly upwards. You don't want too much lateral movement when you're speed climbing. You don't want to be swaying from side to side. And you can see Alfian Mohammed just very direct route to the timing pad, but then a big stumble about 2/3 of the route, just as I said it. Some things never change. Cost him a slightly better time, but I think he'll be confident he can improve on that. Arya Arsendi gets his second run, moves over to the left-hand lane, the A lane, and then Ramad Adi goes into the B lane on the right. Clean so far from both. Ramad Adi with that scurrying style. Clocks a very quick time, 5.812. Very, very quick in the right-hand lane. It wasn't much at all wrong with the run. Possibly missed a slight miss with the right foot towards the top. But a very, very quick time. Alfian Mohammed now again on the left against Aspar Jalolu. In a way, it's a shame this isn't a race. Two absolutely world-class speed climbers going head-to-head, but remember they are racing the clock and not each other, which does reduce the drama ever so slightly, but of course we will have a proper final coming up where the climbers will be going head-to-head, albeit they don't know who they're racing and whether they won. So Alfian Mohammed does go quicker, 6.247, and Jalolu a little sluggish by his standards at 6.5. So final run in Indonesia, Ramad Adi on the left and Zainal Arifin on the right.
Ready?
Both climbers rocking back just before they set off. Nice and clean. Ahmed incredibly fast through the middle section and a very good time again, 5.762, really rocketing. That's two really good runs from him. Will certainly be enough to put him in the top 16. 29 men taking part, I should add. And yeah, you can see there, 5.762, blistering time. And we're back in Russia. And again, like with the women, most of those names will be more than a little familiar to regular IFSC viewers. Dmitry Timofeev now, former World Cup season champion. Needs minimal introduction. He will be up first alongside Arseny Bogomolov. Timofeev comfortable of going well under 6 seconds. Fierce competitor. Often see some quite big reactions from him. Whenever he gets a big result, will he get a big result here? First run for him of the days in the left-hand lane. Bogomolov on the right, more than keeping him honest, but a little slip costs him, and Timofeev does dip under 6 seconds. Bogomolov just over 6.5, 6.549 to be specific. And it'll be Lev Radatsky next in the A lane, and Vladislav Dolin again, and former season champion. Incredibly powerful climber, much bigger than he might appear on camera, Dolin. And I see him around at the World Cups. He's a huge guy, incredibly powerful. And here he goes, alongside, not against, Lev Rydatsky. Both starting well, and Delin powerful and pacey through the middle section. This will be a handy time. 6.069. Doesn't quite dip under the magical 6, and Rydatsky doesn't actually manage to touch the top timing pad, so he records no time for that one. But Delin capable of going quicker for sure. But remember, you only need to be in the top 16. Only 29 men taking part. Delin, I suspect, saving a little bit for later on. So Arseny Bogomolov now gets his second run of the day against Sergei Rukin. Again, Rukin, a very, very promising and, it has to be said, very successful youth climber. Both of these capable of quick times, and both of them in the lower sixes. 6.1 for Bogomolov on the left and 6.3 for Rukin on the right. Rukin looked like he got ever so slightly tangled up in his belay device just as he was going for the timing pad. Perhaps my eyes deceived me, but still 6.317 from Rukin. Not a bad time at all. Two heavyweights of the sport now. Vladislav Delin on the left, Dmitry Timofeev on the right. Both capable of very, very quick times, both vastly successful down their careers. Multiple World Cup wins, season overall titles. It's Delin on the left and Timofeev on the right. Timofeev dipped under 6 seconds the last time. Can he do it again? This time Delin was just over 6 seconds, and they stayed pretty much as you were. Slight improvement for Timofeev, and Delin ever so slightly slower than last time, but their times not dissimilar at all. Timofeev 2 runs in succession under 6 seconds, looking quick and looking consistent. So final run in Russia, Sergei Rukin back out, Lev Rydatsky back out. Rukin was 6.3 last time, so that's what he's looking to improve on, and Lev Rydatsky fell, so as long as he stops the timing pad, even if it takes 20 minutes, he will have improved from last time. Both clean through the lower section. It was Rukin who fell in the middle section, and Lev Rydatsky clocks a pretty respectable 6.197. There was a bit of pressure there, having fallen, well not fallen, having missed the timing pad on his first run. And now we are back to Poland after this, as we just see the results. Timofeev, clearly the form climber over in Russia, 2 times under 6 seconds. And as I say, we move on now to back to Poland, to this very impressive looking climbing gym. So Hubert Pristula. Again, apologies, my pronunciation may not be perfect. I do not have access to any Polish friends here, and I was not able to check every pronunciation. I do apologize if I am making a couple of mistakes. Konrad Gruszka over on the right. 5 climbers taking part in Poland on the men's side today, just as there were on the women's side. And both climbers going pretty well so far. You can see both tall climbers and both clocking pretty decent times around the 7.5 seconds. Remember, climbers are racing the clock, they're not racing each other, so the fact that your light turns green at the top just means you are quicker than the person next to you. That may or may not be relevant when we come to select the 16 finalists. It may be, of course, by sheer coincidence that you being quicker than the person next to you got you into the final and cost them. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything. The clocks just automatically turn green or red depending on who was first. So we can see Jan Simonek of Czech Republic sneaking into the Polish competition, and Jan Gerber over on the left of Poland. And good time, 8.746 for Simonek. Gerber a little slower. He was just over 9 seconds, 9.578. So all Poland again back on the wall. Looking like they're ready to get on with it, to be honest. Jan Kroska over on the left and Pristula over on the right. Tall climber Pristula. You can see absolutely rocketing through those lower moves, and this looks like it could be a pretty handy time. Keep an eye on the clock. A little stumble cost him, but still 7.326. A pretty good return. After this, we are back to Austria and the Kletterzentrum in Innsbruck. But for now, we stay in Poland. That was Jan Gerber over on the right there, and you could see Konrad Gruszka over on the left. Good start from both. Climbers almost all skipping out that handhold on the left right at the start. That seems to have become the accepted method now, and it's a good time from Konrad Gruszka, about as close to going under 7 seconds as one can be without actually managing it. But the quickest time we've seen in Poland on the men's side today. And Jan Simonek of Czech Republic climbing his second run. You can see him there over on the left. Some countries, as we saw in Austria, with German climbers taking part, some countries are allowing a little bit of cross-border travel. Jan Kroska on the right, by the way, of Poland. Yes, some countries are allowing a little bit of cross-border travel in mainland Europe if the situation allows, hence Jan Simonek being allowed to take part in this competition. 2 big slips from him. It means he will not improve. Kroska goes 8.431, so a little bit slow, about 0.2 of a second slower than last time. Simonek 2 seconds slower than last time. 1 big slip. That was the second one. There was also 1 lower down as well. So now we head back to the Kletterzentrum, and you can see confirmation of the times there. Gruszka, the fastest climber, with 7 seconds, almost 7 seconds on the dot, 1,000th of a second slower. And I mentioned earlier that some countries are allowing cross-border travel, and we see an example of it here. Austria against Germany. Again, the better-known climbers and the qualified Olympians in these 2 countries not taking part today, so no sign of Jakob Schubert, although we are, of course. This is, of course, being filmed in the Kletterzentrum in Innsbruck, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was somewhere in the background, but he's not taking part in the speed climbing competition. Ditto Alex Mergos, Jan Hoyer, the other German superstars. It is Sebastian Lucke on the right, Almar Planger of Austria on the left. Remember, you are not racing your opponent, you are racing the clock, and Planger doing a pretty good job of it, 6.125. He will be very happy with that, and Lucke not too bad either, 6.5 for him. Very quick times from the 2 youngsters, particularly the Austrian Planger on the left. You can see there, 6.12, that is quick. So the climbers will have had a rest, which is it looks like they haven't, and they will now take a second run at it. After Austria, we're back to Italy, back to Arco for the men's qualifiers. Of course, we saw the women's qualifiers there earlier on. So now Sebastian Lucke goes on the left with Elmar Planger on the right. Again, Planger quick out the blocks, but Lucke slightly quicker this time as well until a big stumble costs him. Can Planger go even quicker? He cannot. He misses the pad. Just looked ever so slightly hurried in that top section. Couple of misses with the feet, including right at the top, which was what cost him as he planted the left foot to go for the top. Just missed it. So neither climber improving on their time in the second run, but both with very respectable times. I would fancy their chances of being in the top 16. So now we go back to Arco, and a very familiar ring to many of these names. Gianluca Zodda, youth world champion, is taking part. The senior world champion Ludovico Fasali is taking part. And the man we just saw briefly walking out to the B lane, Leonardo Jontero, a regular customer at the business end of IFSC World Cups. You can see officials wearing masks. This is the world that we live in for the foreseeable future. But as I said earlier, it's great just to have some climbing to watch, regardless of the circumstances. We would love to be there live, and we'd love to be bringing you all three disciplines. But something is better than nothing, right? And this provides plenty of entertainment so far, and of course with the finals still to come. So Gianluca Zodda now, as I said, youth world champion from a couple of years ago in Moscow on the left. Leonardo Jontero, real bull of a climber, real powerhouse climber over on the right. Zodda, big slip from him. You'll know he can do better. You can see frustration immediately from him there. Jontero, 7.1 seconds. Big slip from Zodda. Did well to hang on. It was that violent a slip, and he ended up actually only 0.3 of a second behind his compatriot. Ludovico Fasali now, World Cup winner and world champion. It's got a nice ring to it. He is climbing next. He'll have Alessandro Cingari next to him on the left. So this is the first run for both of these climbers, qualifying round. In case they get lost, as you can see, they've got their names written on the bottom of the wall. Very organised over in Arco. And good time from Fasali, 6.273. As I say, from a world champion, we'd expect nothing less than a good clean run and a quick time. Compatriot, not too bad either. 6.611 for Cingari. So Gianluca Zodda getting clipped in now. He'll have Alessandro Bulos. There he is for company over on the left. Zodda looks like a man with something to prove after that big slip earlier on. Really just needs a clean time. He knows he's got the pace, and he goes well under 6 seconds. He's under a little bit of pressure there. Bulos 6.6, that's not too bad either, but Zodda really looked like a man on a mission. He put himself under pressure with a pretty poor first run, but made amends when it counted. Leonardo Jontero now back out again, ready for his second run. He was in the B lane earlier, now he moves left onto the A, and Alessandro Cingari is on the right in the B lane. We'll have one more run after this. Ludovico Fasali will be up alongside, not against, Alessandro Bulos. Cingari quicker through the middle section. You can see very differing styles and an almost identical slip, but he does not improve on his last time thanks to that slip, and Jontero actually, I think, correctly decides that that run was not worth pursuing any further and bails a few moves below the top. Knew he couldn't improve on his time. And that means that we have, one more run. Ludovico Fasali, world champion from Hachioji, qualified Olympian as well. Hoping, as we all are, to be in Tokyo around this time next year. Fasali's got his ticket booked anyway. Today, though, he's back at the coalface, back at the office. Speed climbing competition. Of course, speed, comfortably his best discipline. Let's see what he can do on his second run of the day. Went well first time out. Looked like he had a little bit to spare, and I think he probably does this time as well. 6.045. As I say, another day at the office for Fasali. Nice and clean. Didn't need to rush too much. Gets the job done. And a good time for Bulos as well. 6.3 9.3. So you can see there, Zoda actually the quicker of the Italians, but not much to choose between him and Fossali. So now we return to France. Feels like a long time since since the French qualifying for the women. It was pretty brief as well, only one woman taking part. 4 men taking part, including Mikhail Marwem, another qualified Olympian, but not his brother, Bassa Marwem, who is, of course, pretty close to a speed specialist. Mikhail Marwem, known primarily for his bouldering. And both of the Marwem brothers are qualified for that Olympics. So Thibaut Deloge just being asked to come forward over on the left, and Pierre Rebriand on the right. Without Bassa Marwem, the little inter-France competition will be a little closer than it might have been. Obviously, had he been taking part, Bassa Marwem, the season champion from last year, would have been a strong favourite. Deloge, good time from him, 7.14 and 8.35 for Rebriand. Yeah, had Bassa Marwem been taking part, obviously we would have had a clear favourite. Mikhail Marwem, I still suspect, will be at the business end of this competition, but there's no doubt he's not quite as quick as his brother on a speed wall. But yeah, if you've got Bassa Marwem helping you out in your training, that's not a bad result. And I expect Mikhail Marwem's speed climbing to have improved even further, and it wasn't too bad at all this time last year in the World Championships in Hachioji, but I would expect him to have progressed even further. He is qualified for the Olympics, and of course, with it being a combined format, speed climbing absolutely vital, and you can see Mikhail Marwem has been working on his speed climbing. That is a quick time, 6.504. Petri, meanwhile, over on the left, clocks a 7.125. Yeah, for a non-speed specialist, I hesitate to call anyone qualified for the Olympics a specialist, because they're clearly good in 3 disciplines, but for someone for whom speed is not their primary discipline, 6.5 is a pretty handy time from Mikhail Marwem. He will be happy with that, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few other qualified Olympians looking at that with raised eyebrows and thinking, right, I need to raise my game in the next year. Pierre Rebriand now gets a second run. He's over on the left with Thibaut Deloge on the right. It's a very good time from Rebriand, 6.353. Deloge, almost exactly 1 second slow. 1 second and 300ths, if we're being pedantic. So Mikhail Marwem now gets another run against Gaetan Petri. Just the times still showing up from the last run, by the way. If you can see those times down on the left, they're not the climber's best from earlier on. They are the times of the previous race. And now the clock's reset. The climbers are ready to go.
Ready?
You might have heard there right at the start, the judge shouting, ready. English, the universal language used for these competitions, so there's no local language used. You say ready whether you're in Japan, Indonesia, or France. The competitions run exactly the same regardless of where you are. And you can see there Mikhail Marwem going even quicker again, under 6.5 seconds. Petri improves his time as well by about 500ths of a second. But it was actually Rebriand who was the quicker of the French climbers. But Mikhail Marwem, again, I suspect, will be reasonably happy with his day at the office there. And there are the results of Mikhail Marwem does make it into the final. Interestingly enough, as we scroll down, you'll see that of all the men participating, as we see the final 3 of all 29 men taking part, everybody went under 9 seconds. That's how they'll line up in the speed knockout, the final. And remember, just like a Speed World Cup, the seedings are the same. So the highest ranked climber takes on the lowest ranked climber in race number 1. And as I say, seedings are exactly the same. And the highest ranked climber in the women's qualifiers was that lady there, Yulia Kaplina, and the slowest was Anna Tsiganova. So Kaplina on the left, Tsiganova on the right. Remember, this is done with a split screen. I don't actually know whether they were running alongside each other at the time. We have edited this together, but you are racing your opponent, albeit you are very unlikely to be able to see them. And it is Kaplina who takes it and progresses. Uh, 7.649 to be precise for Kaplina. So now we go over to Austria. My apologies if this does get a little confusing. I will do my very best to keep you informed. We've got the women's round of 16 now, so this is the final, and then we will move on to the men's round of 16. And by pure coincidence, the climbers once again in the same location. And again, I'm not entirely sure whether they knew they were racing against each other, but it is Ritter on the left against Elmer on the right, and it was very close, but it was Elmer who took it by about a tenth of a second. And you can see they were not running next to each other. Clever editors we have at the IFSC. Could have fooled me. Yulia Kaplina so will take on Alexandra Elmer in the next round. So next up we are partly in Russia and partly back in Arco. Elizaveta Ivanova on the left, up against Erika Piscopo on the right. Ivanova probably the favourite here and looking cleaner so far, and taking it by about a second and a half. So she will progress through to take on the winner of the next race, which will be Regia Salsabila and Francesca Varsi. As I say, we're now in the final stage. We've completed the qualifying, so we've seen every climber run twice in the qualifying. The top 16 made it through here, and the seeding works exactly the same as in a normal World Cup. So this is Regia Salsabila, the 5th seed, the 5th quickest woman from the qualifiers, and she is up against Francesca Varsi of Italy, who was the 12th quickest, the 4th race in the speed climbing competition, 5th against 12th. That is how the seeding works. It can seem a little bit confusing how the seeding works, but actually when you look at it in its complete form, it does really make sense. And as I say, 4th race is the 5th seed, Salsabila on the left, taking on Francesca Varsi. The 12th seed on the right, and unless she has a disaster in the upper section, it will be Salsabila taking this one. It is 8.150. Have another look. It's slightly strange watching the replays and not seeing the opponent next to them. But what hasn't been strange in 2020? Just the latest in a line of strange happenings in this strangest of years. Alexandra Kaluchka now, 2nd seed. And in this race, it's the 2nd seed against the 15th seed. So Alexandra Kaluchka on the left, as we look at it, will be taking on Daria Kan of Russia. Poland against Russia, and Kan gets a really good start. It's actually quite tricky to follow who's ahead when we've got these different camera angles. But at the end, it is Kaluchka who takes it by about a second. As I said, it can be tricky. You look at slightly different camera angles, slightly different light. It can actually be quite tricky to tell who's in the lead, but it is Kaluchka who takes it. So she progresses, and she will take on the winner of the next race, which will be Nural Ikomia of Indonesia and Anna Kalanka of Italy. Kalanka qualified 10th fastest time in the qualifiers, and Ikomia had the 7th quickest time in the qualifiers.
Ready?
Must have been tricky to edit these together so they went exactly at the same time, so good job to whoever did it. And it looks to me like Ikomar might be slightly ahead, and she is 8.442. Pretty close, that one. Not much in it at all. Just under a tenth of a second, but it is Ikoma who takes it. Katerina Barashuk will be up next against Capucine Viglione of France. Viglione, the only French climber taking part. On the women's side, of course, they had 4 men as well.
Ready?
So Barashuk was initially quick out of the blocks, but falls almost immediately. Capucine Viglione, of course, doesn't know who she's racing and she doesn't know the results, so it's not like in a normal speed climbing competition where the climber might slow down and just cruise to the top. There's none of that in this competition. You do not know who you're up against. You don't know if you've won. You don't know if you've progressed to the next round. You just do all of your runs as if you are racing the person next to you. It is, as I say, an unusual format in this most unusual of years. So the second of the Kaluchkas out now against the 4th Italian that we've seen in this round of 16, Julia Randi. She'll be on the right. Natalia Kaluchka of Poland, the second of the Kaluchka sisters taking part today, is over on the left. And there's a big stumble from her, and Julia Randi should take this, and does, and another big slip from Kaluchka, and this time results in a fall. So it is Julia Randi who progresses. Let's just have another look at Julia Randi's run. Pretty clean, actually. 8.2 she clocks in the end. So that is the conclusion of the round of 16. That is how we saw briefly on the graphics. That is how they will line up in the round of 8. And we're going straight into the round of 8. Julia Koplina on the left, Alexandra Elmer of Austria on the right. Koplina, the clear favourite, former world record holder, multiple World Cup winner. But Elmer went well in the qualifiers, but it looks like it will not be well enough. And it is not. 1.3 seconds behind Julia Koplina. Well, we're getting through these races. I think when we have a normal speed climbing competition, obviously the climbers come out, they take their time, they get ready. But when it's being edited together, they're just out magically quickly. So we're really getting through these races. I will do my very best to keep you up to date with exactly where we are. And where we are right now is with our second quarter final. Elizaveta Ivanova on the left with Regia Salsabilla over on the right. Both of these very, very strong speed climbers. Could be a particularly close race. Let's keep an eye, and it is a close race. And it is Ivanova who takes it just 7.7 flat. Let's have another look at the top section of her run. Not much at all wrong with that. Nice run. 7.7 flat sees her through. So she will take on Julia Koplina in the first of the semi-finals. So everyone that progresses here will get at least, well, everybody did 2 more runs, but they will be participating for 2 more runs. Not that they knew it at the time, because they'll run in the semi-final and then either the small or the big final. Anyone who gets knocked out at this stage, much as they completed their runs, we will not see them. And we're currently seeing Alexandra Kaluchka and Nurul Ikoma. And again, close race. Half a second in it, but it is Kaluchka who takes it over in Poland. Take another look. Frustration earlier on for her sister who fell. But for Alexandra, no problems at all. 7.764. Capucine now, the sole French woman taking part, made it through to the quarterfinal. Can she make it further? She takes on Julia Randi of Italy, and sadly for Capucine, I think that will not be enough. Julia Randi doesn't know it, but needs to keep things clean. Actually stumbles herself, and I think gave a thought to bailing on her run, but decided to carry on and is rewarded. Dips under 10 seconds despite the big slip and progresses through to the semi-final. 9.884. So that is how the semi-finals will be. Julia Koplina against Elizaveta Ivanova and Alexandra Kaluchka against Julia Randi. So, up first, we have Julia Kaplina. There she is. She should be in the left lane, and Elizaveta Ivanova will be in the right lane. As I say, these climbers in the same venue, climbing on the same wall, but almost certainly were not climbing next to each other when this was filmed. It was Ivanova who got the better start there. Kaplina very sluggish out the blocks. Can Ivanova hang on to that lead? Here she goes. Yes, she can. About a quarter of a second in it. Kaplina, I think, knew she was a bit sluggish in the lower section. Yeah, and as you can see now that we see the full screen, they're actually both running in the A lane and cleverly edited together to be next to each other. But Ivanova takes it. Julia Kaplina, I suspect, knew full well that that was not fast enough. Had a rueful smile as she looked up at the time. So Alexandra Kaluchka now, who's looked quick all day, will take on Julia Randi, who had a bit of a messy last run. That's a good start from both climbers. This one could be pretty tight. Kaluchka looks like she's in the lead now, though. Here she goes to the final move and takes it in 7.670. Julia Randi clocking 8.332. So about 7/10 of a second in it, and it is Kaluchka who progresses. So the big final will be Elizaveta Ivanova against Alexandra Kaluchka, Russia against Poland. And then Julia Kaplina will take on Julia Randi for the bronze medal. And speak of the Devils, here they are. As I say, it's moving an awful lot quicker than a normal speed climbing World Cup. And it is Julia Kaplina against Julia Randi in the small final. This for the bronze medal, and it will be Julia Randi's if she can clock a time. She does. She takes the bronze medal. Of course, she was not aware of that at the time. Julia Kaplina well aware at the time that she had not had a good run and had fallen. But Julia Randi, not knowing it, but has netted herself the bronze medal. Congratulations to her. Not an easy task to beat Julia Kaplina, even if you don't know you're running alongside her. So Elizaveta Ivanova now, she'll be on the left of the screen as we look at it, and she will be up against Alexandra Kaluchka of Poland. So again, these climbers did not know at the time that they would make it through to the big final. Everyone did a big final run, but they didn't know where it would net them. And let's see where this nets them now. Alexandra Kaluchka looks the quicker to me. Can she beat Ivanova? Yes, she can. She takes it in 7.460. She has won the IFSC speed knockout. Let's take another look at the upper section. 7.460, quick time for her until the world record was pushed under 7 seconds. That wouldn't have been too far off the old world record pace. Either way, a very, very quick time. Anything under 7.5, very, very quick. Nets her the gold medal. Ivanova, no slouch at all, 7.706. And that puts her into the silver medal.
This final was so strange for me because my emotions were between competition and training mode. I feel stressed and adrenaline, but not so much like competition. So it was so strange, but it was so fun for me, run along and to wait for results.
So on with the men, without further ado, as I say. The lack of climbers needing to walk out or any of the other things that sometimes take up a little bit of time in the Speed Climbing World Cup means that things are progressing very quickly indeed. So, fastest qualifier from the men's side, Ramad Adi. He'll be on the left against the slowest qualifier. You would have got good odds on that, Aspar Jayalolo. And Adi looks quick again this time. Looks like he's ahead of his illustrious compatriot, and he is 5.809. Aspar Jayalolo, one of the favourites to the competition, out in his first race in the final. And Ramad Adi, who is the highest ranked climber in the qualifiers, is absolutely tearing it up so far today. So we stay in Indonesia on the right-hand lane. I know he's in the A lane, but when we watch, he will appear to be on the right. Alfian Mohammed, he's taking on Lev Radatsky. These two were Not too far apart in qualifying. The qualified 8th for Radatsky and 9th for Mohammed. So expect this one to be pretty close. And it's looking close so far. And it's looking very close on the times. And it is Mohammed who takes it. 6.106. Very, very close run. Around 700ths of a second in it. And you can see it will be Indonesia in the first of the round of 8 runs. So Ludovico Fossali, the reigning world champion, takes on Mikael Marwem. Both of these two qualified for the Olympics. They could find themselves running against each other in Tokyo in a year's time. No matter how strange that would be, climbing make its Olympic debut, it probably won't be quite as strange feeling as this, where they run alongside each other but aren't even aware. But Mikael Marwem, more than keeping pace with his illustrious fellow Olympian, but not quite able to beat him, and it is Fossali who takes it by about a 10th of a second. Mikael Marwem, though, looking really handy on the speed wall. 6.473. That's 3 runs from Mikael Marwem that we've seen today, all around the 6.5 mark. He has been working hard on his speed climbing. As I say, he's got a good coach in the form of his brother, but it has been paying off in a big way. Vladislav Dolin now will be on the left. Alessandra Boulos of Italy. Alessandro on the right as we look at it. Just ignore that A-lane. And Dolin, the clear favourite, absolutely motoring and helped in his cause by Boulos slipping low down. It will be Dolin who takes it almost 6 flat. Not quite gone under 6 actually today, Dolin, so he's definitely capable of going quicker. There you have it. It showed up as 6.00 on the clock, but I've got a bit of inside information. I can tell you it is 6.008 if we are being precise. Dmitry Timofeev now, the 2nd seed from qualifying against the 15th seed from qualifying, which was Zainal Arifin of Indonesia. Both quick, both capable of going well under 6.5, but Timofeev really the experienced climber, and let's see if he can put that experience to good use. He can. Beats Arifin by about half a second to progress. Timofeev really looks like he means business here in this IFSC speed knockout that we are bringing you from around the globe. Arseny Bogomolov now will be on the left against his compatriot Sergei Rukin. There he is, the young but very tall, very powerful and very impressive Russian speed climber. He will be on the right as we see it when the split screen kicks in. There it is, Arseny Bogomolov on the left and Rukin on the right. And this is close so far, and who is going to take it? It is Bogomolov on the left, 6.134. Sergei Rukin is 6.206. Very little in that one, 700ths of a second. But it is Bogomolov who takes it by a pretty narrow margin. And we go back to Italy now, and also back to Indonesia. Gianluca Zodda, the youth world champion from 2018, up against Arya Arsendi of Indonesia. Zodda looked in good form earlier on. He had a bad first run, but the second run really pulled out all the stops. He's looking quick. There he is. He is on the left in reality, and will also be on the left on the split screen. Arsendi also coincidentally running in the A lane, but this one will be very close. Looks like Arsendi's got a lead. No, he does not. It was close, but it was Zodda who took it, 5.907. Let's take another look. Nice clean run from him, barely glancing at his feet until right at the top. No problem at all. And now we return to Innsbruck. Elmar Planger will be taking on Pierre Rebrion, an all-European affair for this final run in the round of 16. And it's a good start from Planga and from Rebiron, but Rebiron falls, and it will be Planga who takes it 6.132. Good time. Very good time. Not quite under the magical 6 barrier, but anyone getting towards it is a handy speed climber. You can see there 6.1. It was 6.132 was the official time. We do have the option, of course, to record times to the nearest thousandths of a second, and those even more detailed times are being fed to me. So if it ever comes down to a thousandth of a second on your man, I've got you covered. So Ramad Adi now, taking on Alfie and Mohammed.
Ready?
Adi has looked the real deal today. He's looked quick all day. Really small climber, but yeah, really fast scurrying style between the holds. And this one looking very close, and it is Adi who takes it, 5.954. Dips under 6. Looking the real deal. Nice run from him. So he progresses. This is, of course, the quarterfinals. And up next, we've got Ludovico Fossali against Vladislav Dolin, world champion against World Cup season champion. This is the battle of the heavyweights. A shame in a way that these two can't be running against each other in the big final, or at least a little bit further up the order, but that is how it's panned out. One of them will go out at this stage. The other one we will see run at 2 more times. Ludovico Fossali now on the left, Vladislav Dolin on the right. Both climbing well. Dolin looks quicker, and he certainly looks quicker now. Fossali falling, and Dolin dipping under 6 seconds for the first time today. And of course, he doesn't know he's won the race, but he looks happy with his time. So Ramad Adi will take on Vladislav Dolin. That will be interesting. In the next round, Dmitry Timofeev now. We're into the second half of these men's quarterfinals. Dmitry Timofeev will take on Arseny Bogomolov. Haven't seen Bogomolov yet. He will appear on the right, I promise you. But Timofeev, another climber who looks like he means business. There is Arseny Bogomolov. From a slightly unusual angle, now we see him head on, and now the race gets underway, and Timofeev looking as he has done all day, quick, sharp, and in the lead. 5.980, another climber in Russia just dipping under the magical barrier of 6 seconds. No one yet been under 5 in the history of sport climbing, but yes, so 6 still very much a big barrier. And he dips underneath it. Gianluca Zodda now of Italy will take on Elmar Planga of Austria. There he is, so actually not too far apart geographically, these two. One in Innsbruck, one in Arco, only about 2.5 hour drive between the two. And when the editor does his thing, they'll look like they're about 1 meter apart. There we go. So Gianluca Zodda on the left, Elmar Planga on the right. Both of these two look quicker, but Zodda probably the favourite. And he is looking the favourite all the way. And takes it, and it was actually a false start from Planga. I had my eye on Zodda, and he was quick, 5.879, but as it turned out, he was the winner by default because it was a false start from Planga. Remember, you can't leave the timing pad within 0.1 seconds of the final beep. So that's how they'll line up for the semi-finals. Ramad Adi against Vladislav Dolin. And then Dmitry Timofeev against Gianluca Zodda. Very interesting semi-finals. Ramad Adi is going to take some beating here, but he's got to take on, not that he knows it, Vladislav Dolin. Frankly, a speed climbing legend. Both capable of going well under 6 seconds. I don't want to say specifically how fast I think they can go, but suffice to say, I think they can improve on their qualifying times so far. Both going really well, both looking really clean. And it's Adi who takes it, 5.757, 5.772 for Dolin. It does not get much closer than that. 200ths of a second separating them. It is Adi who takes it. I would be interested to actually to see Dolin again, because he looked like he turned around and kind of fist pumped, like he was happy with his time, because he didn't know who he was up against, what his opponent did. But I suspect from Delin's reaction, he thought he'd done enough to progress there. And we could see Ludovico Fasali looking on, not in the best of spirits. One of the few climbers who would know that he hadn't progressed because he fell on his last run. So that would probably explain Ludovico Fasali's slightly unhappy look. And he will watch Gianluca Zodda run against Dimitri Timofeev. Not that he knows it's against Dimitri Timofeev, but Timofeev looks so quick. But Zodda is quicker, 5.916. 0.2 of a second quicker, in fact. Let's have another look. He was on the right on our split screen, actually on the left of the Arco wall. And once again, going comfortably under 6 seconds. Zodda looks like he really means business here, and that sets us up for a superb final, potentially, of Ramad Adi, against Gianluca Zodda. And this, the small final, Vladislav Delin against Dimitri Timofeev. Timofeev will be on the right on our screen, and Delin on the left. This for the bronze medal, not the colour of medal that either of these two like to collect, but a medal in this strange season nonetheless for one of them, and both going really well through the middle section. Not much in this at all, and it is Delin who takes it, 5.803. 5.944 for Timofeev. Close race, both of them well under 6 seconds, but it is Delin who takes it. I have to say, Delin, look at his times, might have fancied that he would have won the overall competition, but once everything had been tallied and everything had been added up, he ends up in 3rd place, takes a bronze medal ahead of Timofeev. And we move straight on to the men's big final. Ramad Adi on the left, Gianluca Zodda on the right. Both explode out of the blocks, both going really well. This could be so tight. Keep an eye on the clock. Who has taken it? Ramad Adi takes it, 5.770 to 5.798 for Gianluca Zodda. So all the finalists, big final and small final, all 4 going under 6 seconds. And both finalists in the big final going under 5.8. So blistering times. The lockdown, the lack of access to World Cup level competition clearly not slowed down the best speed climbers in the world.
I'm very happy because this in my first competition and year during pandemic. This is very good format competition and good for me. For the Indonesia national team, special for me.
And that is it from us. Good to hear from the winners there. And hopefully we can see you in the flesh at the World Cup soon.